going to welcome I want to welcome everybody who waited and showed up. It's so nice of you. My name is Joyce Dwulet. I live in Greenwood, Indiana, which is south of Indianapolis. I'll let you know in the room with me, because it's always fun to know who else is here, is my son, Christopher, who's our IT specialist, his wife, Julia, and Julia's mother, Ludmilla. Ludmilla from Ukraine. How many months? 6 months? 6 or 7 months. And for our protection, we have Athena, the German Shepherd. So if you hear a barking, it's Athena has seen a leaf in the yard move, or God forbid, a plastic bag. That would be even worse. So I'm just going to start. And at the end, we'll open it up to any questions. And I thank you for sticking around. I've been doing raised paste about 3 or 4, well, if you count the COVID, about 5 years now. I enjoy it a lot. And so the first thing I do when I start is I use decals. And so I brought one of my decals to show you. It's full of nice little things that will go on a box. Here's a Santa Claus and Christmas. Here's a Christmas one and some butterflies, and baskets are very nice on little boxes. When you use a decal, you have to take off this tissue paper. The tissue paper is for transportation, so they won't all stick together. My decals are made in England. They're really very nice decals. I like them a lot. But I want to tell you, if you have other decals that you've bought from Rosa Marie Plancarte or Barbara Jensen or Sylvia or anyone, please use them. They're for your convenience only, and for my convenience as a teacher. When we have a class, I could make you pick out a design, trace it on your piece of porcelain, but that takes time. So this is for your convenience. You can get going quickly. The raised paste we're going to use was made by my husband, who is a chemist, as many of you may or may not know. So it's his formula. And we'll go from there. So the first thing I do is I like to keep my area really pretty clean when I'm doing raised paste. And I use Everclear alcohol. You go to the liquor store to get this. It's 190 proof. Don't drink it.
Hello.
Okay. I use this in graduate school in chemistry. I have a chemistry degree also. And this will put you on your knees faster than you can ever imagine. So I like to clean with it. I clean my brush with it. I clean up what's left over with it, because it takes everything off and it leaves it clean. And you can also clean your porcelain with it. And if you've got greasy stuff around your oven, you can clean with it. It's a great cleaner, and it's also a great disinfectant. So Everclear, go buy some, or make your husband buy some, or whatever. So the kit that I have comes with your raised paste and 2 little vials of oil and directions in here. So you can keep it all together, and the directions are in there, and they're pretty much what I'm going to tell you today. So when you get your raised paste and you have this nice bag of raised paste, do not open it up and dump it all out and mix it all up, because tomorrow it will be hard and you'll never get it back to any consistency to use. So I use just a spatula full. Just about like that. and I set it down, and now I use the oil to mix it, and I only use this oil. It does have lavender in it. It does not have turpentine in it. And it has some other things, which I'm not going to tell you about, but I've not had anyone have any trouble with it. The raised paste does not have any lead, so that's good. And this doesn't have any turpentine, so that's good. So I take like a small spatula of it, and I spend quite a bit of time mixing because I want all those little bits of raised paste to get nicely mixed in. Now, if you start using it and you get those little tips on your dots, you don't have enough oil. So this is not near the right consistency. For one thing, it doesn't move, and you can see it's kind of a matte look. That's not enough oil. So we'll put in a little bit more. And you notice I just like dip in the end of my palette knife. I'm not going to let it swim and dump a whole bunch down there, or you'll have to put more paste, and then you put more oil, and then you've got the whole bag used up. So this is about right. Maybe it's a little wet. It runs kind of fast off the palette, so it's a little bit faster than I like. I'm just going to put in like about that much more paste. I'm not going to use a lot. It's best when you just do small amounts with this. Now, I don't know if you can see this, so I'm going to try real hard, and Christopher can tell me if you can see this. When I take it off the palette knife, it slowly moves. So, can you see it move? Okay, here we go. It moves just a little. You may or may not be able to see it, but when you do it yourself, you'll see it just slightly moves. And it's about this consistency of nice, heavy whipping cream. Slowly drops off your palette knife. If it runs off, too much oil. If it doesn't drip at all, not enough. There's a hair. We don't want that. It's from Athena. Okay, so this is mixed pretty nicely. And I'm happy with that mixture. So now we have our pen, our brush, I'm sorry. I use a 20-aught brush. This is
Back to,
okay.
trying to get it to focus.
Good. 20-aught. I sell them. It's a black gold dynasty brush. You can find them sometimes on the internet. I spend a lot of time looking for them. So if they're not easy to find, but it's a 20-aught. So if you have brushes that are real thin, maybe a 10-aught, try it rather than buy a whole bunch of brushes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you on something dark the 4 strokes that I use, and then we're going to do a little raised paste work. I know many of you have wonderfully dark eggs that you've bought, maybe. Okay. Or you've got dark mugs. I've got a vase that's huge here. I'm using those today, not because you have to use a navy blue or a black, but it's just easier for you to see the contrast. Although it works fine on this. This paste will work on porcelain, bone china, or bisque. So if you bought a whole bunch of bisque eggs that were colored because they were beautiful colors and you couldn't stand to live without them, like someone I might know. This is a wonderful way to use them up and give them away for Easter. And I also liked colored eggs. So anyway, I'm going to use a colored egg to show you the strokes that I use for contrast. And then we'll do something on white china. So I've got my raised paste all nicely mixed up here, and it's like good. Is this a good? This is good. So of course, one of the first things you do or learn to do is dots. And when we do this raised paste, let me show you this. That's good. We do not do this. We are not brushing it on like this. We're not dotting it like this. We're scooping it up and using the tip of our brush. So you scoop, scoop. If you've got your brush laid out like this, you're not doing it right, and you're not going to have good results. So I'm going to scoop, and we're going to do a few dots. This paste is self-settling, so it means that it settles down and you don't have those tips, and it doesn't run, and you can make fairly large dots if you want. And we can make it either big one. And I'm working off the tip of my brush. And if you like, you can do really small ones. Oh, we can do better than that. The trick is to, of course, get into a nice rhythm. And you sort of get into a Zen mode, or at least I do at my home. The living room is basically my studio because it has a large screen TV. So I turn on the TV and watch NCIS and just start dotting. Ooh, that dot's too big, but you get the idea of dots. And Rosa Plancarte was a beautiful and wonderful teacher of dots. And I can never be as good as she is, but we try. So there are dots, and I'm going to remove those with Everclear. And it comes right off. The next stroke I want to teach you is like a petal stroke, like a daisy, you know, the daisy petals. And a little hint that I can give you is almost all of my decals are actually embroidery patterns because they are perfect for raised paste work. The little dots are French knots in embroidery, so you can find French knot embroidery patterns. The next stroke is like the lazy daisy pattern in this stitch in embroidery work. So there's the lazy daisy. So we're going to do the lazy daisy or the petal stitch or petal stroke, whatever you want to call it. I like this one very much. I use this a lot. And it's, you set your brush at the tip down and lift off. Set down and lift off. I think you can see where I'm going with this. Set down and lift off. Oops, that was a bad one. I might leave it or I might wipe it off depending upon who I'm giving this to, I guess. Set down, lift off. And you can make big ones and you can make really little ones. But that's just like a little old plain panel. There's a nice little one. Set it down and lift up. We'll do a big one. Lift down, lift up. Now, if you learn this stroke, whoops, you can do almost any of my patterns. They're very easy. One of the things I've noticed in teaching is that the students are a little bit afraid of taking too much, getting too much raised paste on their brush. And so they'll just do a little bit and then they'll try this and it turns out like this. Go ahead and use some. You're going to have plenty in there. You can actually scoop up some to use. Don't just be real afraid of it. Scoop up some to use. You see the difference? I got a pretty big amount on that. Well, it's kind of a daisy with different size petals. I did that without a decal. Now, if I was going to do it without a decal and give it away, I'd be a little bit more careful, but you can do your own thing. And on bisque eggs, it's wonderful. So that's our petal stroke. So I'm going to wipe that off now. With Everclear, go to your local liquor store, get it. You'll be happy you did. The next stroke we do is it is like a scrolling stroke, which we've all seen scrolling. And, you know, it's very beautiful and it's long and gorgeous. Think of it as like a shepherd's crook. So we're going to do a little swing and then go down. This takes a little more practice. And I sort of have to look at it. Almost like a comma. Now I might want to make this a little longer. So I can do that. I can fill it in a little. Make it a little longer. I can make short ones. It's a little fat one. This one you have to, I like to practice a little before I start on my piece to sort of get the swing of it. That's a good one. And if you want it to go all the way down, that's fine. Just add a little more and extend it. Better than that. Oops. A lot of times when I'm doing raised paste and I do a scroll, I then do some little dots at the end. I'm not picking up enough today after I told you all to pick up more. Do as I say, not as I do. This is one that you need to practice before you set out on your perfect piece of Limoges to do. I need to go a little slower. That's a better one. And you can do bigger ones and smaller ones. And if you know you pick up a whole bunch of raised paste, you can do it. But my hand's in the way, I'm sorry. You can do a great big one like that. And yes, this will fire fine. And if you want to, you can even make it a little bigger. So that's your scrolling. There's a lot of little scrolling on many of the pieces that you see in the decals. So now I'm going to wipe this on with Everclear from your liquor store. And the very last thing is sort of like a straight line or a curved line or just a line when you want to outline something. This is, again, really easy. You just pick some up and do your line. And if you do a line like that and you go, oh, drats, that's crooked, I don't want to do that. It's pretty easy to fix. You find yourself either your wipeout tool or a little Q-tip or a big Q-tip. And you just go down one edge and straighten it. And then you go down the other edge and straighten it. I want it a little straighter than that. And I can make it pretty thin if I want to. Makes a nice straight line. A lot of times on little roses, you'll need to do just little bitty lines like this or like this. Just little ones. Almost scrolls. And if I don't like it again, I can make it thinner. It really depends on what you want to do on that piece. Oops, here's a really thin straight line. So now I'm going to wipe this off again. And we're going to do a little raised paste on a porcelain piece. This is a piece I started about 2 weeks ago, and this is the raised paste. If you can't tell, that's going to be a rose. Remember, when you do raised paste, it's really a texture decorative thing. So if you fill this all in, it's just a big blob. So I usually outline my rose. I like to fill in the leaves and give a little point off at the end so you know it's a leaf. But if you wanted to outline the leaf, you could. If you wanted to do dots along the edge and fill in the line with dots, you could. The only thing I do tell you is, like when you have stems, don't put raised paste in your stems. You'll never get it thin enough. Use your pen work and put gold in your pen and just fill them in with plain gold, no raised paste. So I've already got this rose done, and I put on these little decals that are actually kind of roses too. So it's okay when you're working if you want to clean your brush off and start fresh. So we'll start here in the middle, and here's a little dot. That's the heart of your rose. Then I'm just going to do little lines, little bitty lines. That one line there is so little, I'm not even going to do it. Maybe I'll do this one. That's the rose. And now these are like little leaves or petals falling off. So I'm going to do the little petal stroke on those. takes a while. And I don't have NCIS on here to get me in the Zen mode. Christopher does not look at all like Carmen on NCIS. So I've done that. Put a little more in this one. I may have wiped that off. And I'll just keep going. Little lines or petals until I get out here to the end. Here's a nice scroll. And this goes into a stem, as you can see. What I might do, I have two choices here. I could do little bitty dots on the stem, little bitty ones. I don't like that. So we'll just take that off. What I'll do is when I do my gold work, I'll just put gold on this and extend it out with a pen. But I'll definitely do these little leaves. And this. Like this. Like this. Now, I don't have all of it done, but I have enough that you can see how I would continue. And when I got to this area, obviously this decal didn't go, you know, I have 3 decals on here. They're all the same thing. I would want to hook these together. And I would do it just like this. Now they're all hooked together and it's one long round of roses and scrolls and leaves. So this would take me probably maybe an hour to do at home. And I would not need any more raised paste than this. I would have some left over. At the end of the hour, this paste might be getting a little stiff. So all you do is you dip just the very end of your palette knife in and reconstitute it and keep going. Now, I hate to tell you, if this is all you're going to do today and you've got some raised paste left over, just throw it away because you will not be able to constitute it tomorrow. By tomorrow, it will be hard like this. And all you do is wasting oil and your time. So if you've got a little left over, throw it out. Now, oops, I've got my fingers in this. Let's just say that I've got all this done and I've got it all done this afternoon. Fire it. Just put it in the kiln and fire it. You do not have to wait overnight. You don't have to wait till it dries. I could put some big dots here if I wanted to and fire it right now. Put it in the kiln. I fire at 017. I just turn it on high and let it rip. And this is the single most important thing I'm going to tell you today. This is the rule that can never be broken. And if you break it, don't call me. You must leave your porcelain in the kiln until it's cold. No fast cooling, no cracking it open to see what it looks like. No cracking it open a half an inch and then in an hour do another half an inch. No, you leave it closed, lid closed until it's cool. So, you know, if you want to do it at 9 o'clock at night, you have to wait till 9 o'clock tomorrow morning to open it up and be happy. If you do it at 4 o'clock in the morning, you cannot, I got raised paste in my hair. Oh, well, it'll wash out. If you do it at 4 o'clock in the morning, don't open at 9 o'clock because it's not going to be cool. You have to let it cool in the kiln. And this is the reason why, because if you don't, it might pop off. If you allow it to cool completely, I have not had any pop offs ever. I hesitate to say that because surely there'll be some time where it might, but then I'm going to call it the porcelain's fault, not mine. So if you, fast cool it and it pops off, don't call me because that's the first thing I'll ask you. Did you allow it to cool? Now, after I fire it, I'll do gold work on it and I will fill in the rose in its entirety. I'll fill in the leaves in its entirety. I'll put stems on with a pen. The same down here, I'll fill in the leaves, not just where I put the raised paste on, but I'll entirely fill in the rose because you want that up and down texture. If you just fill in the raised paste and not the part that you didn't put raised paste on, you're not going to get it. And I'll, maybe I'll put gold on the dots. The other thing I want to kind of emphasize is after you've fired this and your raised paste is fired on, you have options. You can put on it Roman gold, which is what I like the best. Here is some with Roman gold on it. Good focus?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Here's some with Roman gold on it. Liquid bright gold looks a little brassy, but it still works on it. You can paint on top of it, or you can put luster on top of it. And so I have done that on this piece, which I used to carry around, but I don't anymore because I've bonked it and cracked it. But on this piece, you can see I've done raised paste. This is Roman gold. This is raised paste with black paint on top of it.
They wanted to know, can you do raised paste over luster?
Yes, and I can show her some of that in a second. This is luster on top of the raised paste, but you have to be very careful because luster is really runny, so it's hard to do. And you may have to do it a couple of times before you fire it, let it dry. And let's see, this whole tree is a brown luster. And now I did have, this was not a pop off on this. This was a knockoff where I've knocked it against something several times and it's knocked off. You can tell because it didn't all pop off, come off. So yeah, you can knock it off if you take a little hammer and chisel or clunk it. But insofar as it coming out of the kiln and it going, that won't happen. So in every class I've taught, without exception, someone will say to me, can you add paint to your raised paste to make a different color? And the answer is always no, because this is already colored. It's colored this color on purpose so that when you put gold over it, if you don't totally get it covered, it's okay because it kind of looks like gold. It'll blend in easily. So, and in fact, you can put paint on top of it if you want, or you can make it any color you want. But no one seemed to like that. So I said to my husband, guess what? What? We're going to make some white raised paste. And I've just started this. So you get to be one of the first ones to see it. This is white raised paste. You can tell that Athena was happy. She's really happy that I've made white raised paste. So I'm going to clean my brush. And my palette knife is clean. And I'm going to take a little of the white raised paste out and show you what to do. Again, don't do the whole bag. Just take out a little, a spatula full, like that. I'll put some more in here when we go home. Now you want to color it. Well, it stands to reason that you're going to have to use a really dark color because you're mixing it with all of this white. You can mix about 10% only paint. So if you start adding paint to make it real dark, it's not going to work. It might pop off. It's just not going to work. You can only use 10% paint. So pick a dark paint. I picked cobalt to show you. And I'm going to add, I'm going to say this is about 10%. So it's not like I'm adding a lot. And you mix it up. You go, well, it's not dark enough. Well, too bad. You cannot keep adding paint. You're going to get a pastel. You use the same oil and you mix it the same way. And you see it's coming out a lovely pastel, powder blue, kind of baby blue. You can see I spend a little bit of time mixing. This is obviously not thin enough, so I'll add a little more oil. I want it to move just, that's pretty good, but I just see half a drop more. It's moving, it's good. So now you can paint on your white porcelain and you can make little pastels. This is white raised paste mixed with colors. This was a dark green. This was like a burgundy or a maroon. This was mixing yellow, and you all know how bright and intense mixing yellow is. This was lilac. Didn't turn out the way I wanted it, but that's what I did. So, you know, you can do the same way with this, the exact same things. You put on your petals if you like. You can dot if you like. Oops, that was a big one. You can do all this with that and it'll come out blue. So now, you know, when it doesn't turn out the way you wanted it to, like this lilac one, I still have the option of taking this and painting it and firing it again. So it's really what you want to do. You need to decide, are you going to do this for gold? Then you should use the gold one. Or are you going to do it for like this, which is kind of like enamel? Then pick a white one and be happy with the color that you get, or paint over it. That's all I can tell you. Okay, when we're done, again, we fire that at 017. We leave it in the kiln till it's cool. Then we take it out and put what we want on top of it. Roman gold or liquid bright or paint or luster, or you do the white thing and do your own colors and have fun with that. The main thing about raised paste is to realize that you can do this on any piece that you want. If you've already got a beautiful base painted with roses and you just wish you could surround it with raised paste and dots, you can. So that's pretty much all I have. We have some questions, do we, Christopher?
Faye would like to know, how many times can you fire it?
You can fire it as many times as you want, as long as you remember the cardinal rule, which is, I'm not going to make you write it out, Faye. It's leave it in the kiln till it's cool. Usually, by 3 or 4 fires, I'm done. So if I'm doing a big plate, I would do maybe a third of it, fire it, and then do another third, so you're not sticking your hands in it all the time. It works fine if you fire it multiple. Recording has stopped. Oh, now it's back on again, but you have to let it cool in between. Are there any other questions?
Yes, Marcia would like to know, can you please tell us again, what is the brush you use? Also, what cone you fire the gold, paint, or luster?
Okay. The brush I use is a 20-aught. It'll say on the side here, 20-aught. That means 20/0. Black Gold by Dynasty. Good luck. They are online, but you have to really look hard to find them. I sell them for $10, just so you know. And the question was, what do I fire the gold?
It says, what cone do you fire the gold, paint, or luster?
I fired 017 again. And I've not had any problems with that. As long as you leave it cool in the kiln until you're done.
Faye would like to know if we can order your kit.
Yes, of course you can. And this is how you do it. I wrote this out so it would be easy to see. Can you see this, Christopher?
It's backwards on the recording.
Whoops, it's backwards on the recording.
So I'll type it in chat.
Yeah, good. Here's my email and my phone number. You may call, write, whatever. And while Christopher's doing that, unless there's any more questions, I now have something I want to say to all of you. I don't know how many there are, 4 or 5, or whoever's listening to this recording. Please support your organizations, whether it's IPAT or WOCP, it doesn't matter. We need to keep our organizations going strong. And the only way you can do that is support them by working, going, volunteering, whatever. And also, I want to talk to you about supporting your schools. Back in the day, maybe 20 years ago, there may have been 10 to 15 schools available. Listen to the ones who have closed. Missouri is closing this year. Tybee is closed. Charleston is closed. Florida, Michigan, Oregon, North Carolina, and Arizona are all done. The only ones that I can think of that we have still available to us is Canada, A Painter's Collection, Joni in Omaha, Campana, Nancy Kreitz in Texas, Casanova in New York, the Upper Midwest Porcelain with Linda Grice. Mary Ashcroft Seahagen has a retreat at Cairo, Michigan in the fall and spring, and Indiana has a school in September in Indiana. And I'm not saying this because I'm on the Indiana board, but we need to support our schools too, or else there will be none, as many as have closed. So support your schools, support your organizations however you can. And at this time, unless there are more questions.
We don't have any. Let me see if I can get this so we can see it the proper way for the recording.
Okay.
There we go. That's the email address. So it's Imzadi, IMZADI, and then the numbers 1701 at AOL.com. So that's Indigo, Mazda, Zulu, Alpha, Delta, Indigo, 1701 at AOL.com. And then 317-441-3710.
I want to thank Suzanne for having me, and I want to thank Anna, I can't say your last name, for contacting me. I want to thank Christopher for my IT, and Ludmilla for attending, and Athena for protecting. I want to thank all of you for listening and showing up even though we were late. So unless there are any more questions, I thank you and bye-bye.